Hello kind people of YouTube and welcome back to another video. I just wanted to talk about the role of Bitcoin Cash for the markets, what's been going on the last couple days around it, and what its future might be for a moment. So this is very much a themed video, not your regular news update that is coming later today. But we have seen a rather shocking market crash in the last week. We have seen 3 separate days where markets dropped over 10% each. Today, the market cap is under $150 billion total. We have fallen from, I believe, 205 billion to 180 billion to 165 billion, now to 146.5 billion in under a week. That is absolutely the worst we have seen all year long. And a lot of people agree that Bitcoin Cash, while it might not be the only cause, was almost certainly the catalyst for all of this. Bitcoin Cash dropped from over $600 to about $200. Right now it has ever so slightly recovered, it's at 241, but from yesterday it is down 32%. Now, you probably know what has been going on if you follow the crypto world, if you're watching my channel. But Bitcoin Cash had a hard fork. And that hard fork into 2 versions, Bitcoin Cash ABC, which is generally just considered Bitcoin Cash now. When you see someone refer to Bitcoin Cash, they generally mean Bitcoin Cash ABC now. And Bitcoin Cash SV, which stands for Satoshi's vision and which was meant to take Bitcoin Cash back a bit, undo some technological upgrades to become closer to just original Bitcoin, which ironically Bitcoin Cash split it from because it wanted to improve on it, so that's just all kinds of baffling. But among that hard fork, there was a bunch of infighting. There were threats made. There were threats of attacks on Bitcoin Cash, among other things. And that market, the whole sentiment around it, that hard fork coming up, the uncertainty which version would be supported, all of that coming together with the threats, with people have referred to it as a crypto civil war. With all the... It was just a massive, massive mess. And that seems to have crashed the market and we're still falling. And it's pretty undeniable that Bitcoin Cash here is the leading factor, because we're seeing it here drop 32% on a day where everything else is down about 10%. And XRP once again falling the least, down only 7.9%, because it seems to be fighting the market more than anything else at the moment. But if we're looking at the longer term movement for Bitcoin Cash here, and if we're looking at the last month, we're seeing here it was at $629 just 13 days ago. And today it briefly hit $202. It fell to a third in under 2 weeks. That is absolutely terrible. You see here the lead up to the hard fork, people were getting excited, people were buying, because of course a hard fork means free money. A hard fork means that what used to be 1 coin is now 2 coins, and usually one forked version tends to just die off and crash in value, but you still get free money, you get an additional token. You potentially can double your investment in a hard fork, so you see a lot of people buying, but then all the mess started and the price just kept falling and falling and falling. And then on the 15th is when the actual hard fork was supposed to happen, and here we see the 14th. 524 down to 427. It dropped 20% on the day before the hard fork, and then it just continued, and here was the next drop from 336 to 232 in, that must have been minutes. The way it looks here, that was minutes. And you see here an ever so slight recovery, but I don't believe that will hold on. Now we have to ask the question, is Bitcoin Cash dying? What is happening here? And one thing that happened is it actually briefly fell to number 5 after being well established in number 4 for a long time, as you see here from this AMB crypto article. Stellar Lumens overtakes Bitcoin Cash in Red November escapade, becomes 4th largest token. Now we don't really need the details here, but they describe it as a bloodbath, in which Stellar's market cap did also fall, but still Bitcoin Cash fell so much more that it managed to fall below it. Bitcoin Cash nosedived from 6.72 billion to 4.13 billion. Right now it recovered a bit, 4.18. But that was absolutely scary. That is just scary, and we saw a flip here. And we don't see anything in the top 5 generally flipping. XRP took number 2 from Ethereum a couple days ago and has been going strong there now, but that was the only other major flip that happened in the last 2 or 3 months. Everything has been set in stone, has been around the same positions. We did see EOS, I believe, in number 5 for a while as well. But generally, you don't see a lot of movement there. So when something like this happens, that is, you might think, why does this matter? Because it's just a comparison, these are individual projects. It matters because it's about prestige. Once you see a coin that carries the Bitcoin name, even with Bitcoin Cash being considered not the real Bitcoin by most people, it being a hard fork of Bitcoin that happened, I believe, earlier this year or last year. I'm completely lost about time, but it's been out for a while. But it still carries the prestigious Bitcoin name, and seeing that drop against Stellar when it's already below XRP and Ether, that is a mental block that that hurts Bitcoin Cash's long-term perspectives. People don't like seeing that. And you saw so much money leaving the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. Do you really think people are going to flow back in? Because ultimately you have to wonder, what does Bitcoin Cash have if not the prestige of being a fork, of being the first major fork of original Bitcoin? Bitcoin Cash lives off its name, and it already is considered not the real deal by a lot of people. Other people consider Bitcoin Cash the real Bitcoin because it has technological advancements. But the general consensus, and why it's called Bitcoin Cash and not just Bitcoin, is that people consider it not the real deal, essentially a knockoff, a copy. And that is also hurting the image of Bitcoin if it can be split into two like that. And now you see the biggest fork of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, itself split into two, and it makes people wonder, what does it even matter? What value does it even have? If you can just split it continuously, if you can use it to just create money out of nothing in a hard fork, if those hard forks are dangerous to the technology, to the coin, if they result in market crashes, this is reflecting badly not just on Bitcoin Cash, but also on Bitcoin itself. And we've seen Bitcoin fall like crazy as well. Bitcoin was well over $5,000. Now it's at $4,492. And some people think it's falling a lot further. Here we have an Ethereum World News article with an analyst who's so bearish on Bitcoin, he thinks it's going to 1,000, or at least that 1,000 is a real possibility. We talked about another analyst the other day who said 2,000 was a possibility in the near future, with 3,000 being a number that I've seen thrown around a lot, at which point we are also below the break-even point for Bitcoin mining, and we have to worry about what that will do to Bitcoin. Now, mining can become cheaper. I believe one of the things that does make it cheaper is if fewer people are mining, so the difficulty isn't going down, but Bitcoin mining can become cheaper, or people might just be mining and locking their Bitcoin away, only selling when the markets go up again. But then you have to worry about what happens the next time the Bitcoin price goes up. And when it crosses the threshold where these mined Bitcoin are profitable to sell again. And once those flood the markets, will it crash again? So Bitcoin Cash is just wreaking havoc here. Just wreaking absolute havoc. And just look at this Bitcoin price development here. This is the scariest we have seen. This is just absolutely incredible. And that was all as a result of Bitcoin Cash crashing the entire market. Now, I said it in another video, I don't think Bitcoin Cash is the only reason we've seen this market crash. But Bitcoin Cash absolutely seems to have been the catalyst. Now, the market was trending downward. We had some technical indicators showing that a drop might be inevitable, might be coming. And we also saw a narrow trading range for a pretty long time. That usually means a breakout either up or down. But everything started crashing like crazy after Bitcoin Cash. And then once again, we see now Bitcoin Cash down over 30%. For a short while, it was down almost 50%, but like I said, it recovered ever so slightly. But who knows how long-term this recovery will be. What happens if Bitcoin Cash continues going down like this? What happens to the image of Bitcoin Cash, and by extension the image of Bitcoin? Because as much as people don't want to connect them, as much as a lot of Bitcoin supporters don't like to think of Bitcoin Cash as being anything related to Bitcoin, they carry the same name, and that has impact whether you want it to have it or not. Investors who are not in the crypto world, who don't have a deep understanding of how everything here works, They're looking at Bitcoin Cash and they're seeing it as a reflection of Bitcoin, which in a way it is. It is a forked version. It has the same underlying blockchain with some changes. But now we saw Bitcoin Cash itself forking, and we saw this mass exodus out of Bitcoin Cash. We saw it crash the entire market. We saw this is just terrible for the crypto markets in the long term. And at this point, I'm not sure Bitcoin Cash can survive. Especially unlike most other major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin Cash doesn't really have any specific use case. It doesn't have technology that is in any way comparable to pretty much any of the other top 10 coins. Except for Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash, all the top 10 cryptocurrencies are advanced, newer generation blockchains that have capacities that these older blockchains simply do not have, that are more scalable, that have more unique use cases, that can build dApps on top of them, that have smart contracts, that have privacy features that other coins don't have. These other top 10 coins, they do specific things, or they do things better than others, which is a cause of them being assessed to be a certain value. Now, I'm trying not to use the term innate value here because you can argue that such a thing does not exist. But there's a reason these coins bounce back. And that is because people see them as having value because they have certain capacities. Because you can do certain things with these coins, with these projects. And with Bitcoin Cash, you have to wonder what that is. And with it forking, with people losing faith in it, with uncertainty surrounding it, with it losing some of its prestige, what is there left to it? Because in my book, all Bitcoin Cash had, and much of what Bitcoin has, is prestige. And once that is dropping, once you see the people involved in Bitcoin Cash fighting amongst themselves, cracking it wide open, creating two different coins for no good reason. There was no good reason for this. Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's vision, which is just a neutered Bitcoin Cash, didn't need to exist. There was just selfishness. People wanted to make money. This hard fork, whatever people might say, this was so they could get more coins that they could then sell for a profit. This was to make money. And they crashed the entire crypto market along with it. They hurt the image of Bitcoin Cash. By extension, they hurt the image of Bitcoin. They created mass uncertainty. They crashed everything down. And what we're seeing now is certain altcoins significantly outperforming both Bitcoin Cash and especially also Bitcoin. And this is now happening because Bitcoin Cash is tainted. And I'm not talking about anything objective here. I'm talking about market opinion. That is what ultimately matters for prices. I'm talking about what people think. Well-informed people in the crypto world are well-informed. They're not easily they don't easily change their mind because of events like this. But mainstream investors, people who FOMO'd into the markets, they see this. They get scared. They start harboring negative feelings against Bitcoin Cash, and by extension, a lot of these will translate them to Bitcoin, and ultimately also to the crypto markets as a whole. But this is an opportunity for altcoins that do not have Bitcoin in the name to grow and to get a larger market share. And we've seen XRP do this. We have seen XRP gain significantly in market share. XRP right now has about a 13% market share, when it was just at, what, 5% a couple months ago? And among this crash, while the entire market lost from over 200 billion to 146, I think XRP went from 20 to 18. And we've seen this with other coins as well. Stellar hasn't dropped nearly as much, Stellar Lumens rather. Lumens hasn't dropped nearly as much as the rest of the market. We are seeing altcoins outperform Bitcoin and most importantly Bitcoin Cash. And that might be a paradigm shift in the markets here. And there's still bad news coming out about Bitcoin Cash. And this is sometimes not directly Bitcoin Cash's fault. But you have to keep in mind, in the court of public opinion, image is what matters, not necessarily truth. And here we have something where OKX is now under fire for alleged market manipulation because they settled Bitcoin Cash futures early. And whether that is market manipulation or not, I have not looked into the details of this particular case. But the important thing here is that we now have headlines that have market manipulation and Bitcoin Cash in the same line. And once again, you have to keep in mind, people who are not as well versed in the crypto world as a lot of us are, they just see Bitcoin. And it doesn't matter here that OKX is at fault, because this implicates Bitcoin Cash by association. And a lot of people in the markets are speculators. They're not all that well informed. They're just going by pretty much what their gut tells them, what their limited information tells them. And headlines like this, they are hurting the image of Bitcoin Cash, and it can't get hurt any further than it is right now, because this is just a mess, and I don't know if Bitcoin Cash can survive this. And honestly, I want to hear your guys' opinions, because I'm pretty indifferent towards Bitcoin Cash. I don't necessarily think it has a particularly good use case or anything, but as an attempt to improve in some ways on Bitcoin, I think it does have a certain reason to exist. There are people behind it that tried to do something legitimate, but now with all the infighting, with the fork that didn't need to happen, with how that crashed public sentiment and opinion of Bitcoin Cash, the entire market along with it, Bitcoin along with it, we might be looking at a much longer and harsher crypto winter than we thought, partly because of this. And like I said, generally trend lines were pointing downwards, but not for anything this extreme, and then Bitcoin Cash happened. And it's just all because people were selfish. All because of a fork that didn't need to happen. Because of a fork that there was no need for that to exist. And of course, the main proponent of Satoshi's vision claims to be Satoshi, which everyone knows is complete nonsense. He's not Satoshi. But that was the claim behind the creation of Bitcoin Cash, Satoshi's vision. The idea was to bring Bitcoin Cash back to the original, but then you have to ask, Bitcoin exists. Why do we need to a hard fork of Bitcoin to make it more like Bitcoin when Bitcoin exists? There's just so much ridiculous stuff around this. And I think we're going to see this market continue crashing. And I think in the long term, if we're looking at months or years, that will probably be healthy for the crypto market in a variety of ways, because we are seeing altcoins decouple from Bitcoin and by extension Bitcoin Cash. And we're seeing a market shift here. And we're seeing a lot of people who FOMO'd into the market are leaving. A lot of people who don't really know what they're doing, who are speculating, who are bad for the health of the market are leaving. They're cutting their losses, they're cashing out of the market. And while all this is happening, there is a lot of development happening, there's a lot of infrastructure building happening, but in the near term, this might be pretty awful. This might continue going further. And honestly, we have Bitcoin Cash to thank for this. And in my view, Roger Ver, Craig Wright, they are Craig Wright to a much bigger extent though, but both of them to some degree. Their image has really crashed in my opinion. I have very little respect left for either of them, but especially for Wright. But in general for Bitcoin Cash. And this, I want to hear your guys' opinions, but to me this is looking like Bitcoin Cash might not in the long term survive this. Now there is no such thing as a cryptocurrency completely dying, but honestly, I'm unsure if anyone will still be talking about Bitcoin Cash in a year or two. Completely unsure. And all it had for it was the prestige with being associated with Bitcoin. And now that itself has hard forked, and with all the Bitcoin hard forks that we've also seen earlier this year, and with the infighting with the team behind Bitcoin Cash, does anyone still take it seriously? Really? Does it still have that prestige? Can it still keep it if it does still have it? How much longer? What if they decide to hard fork at some point again? What happens then? We've seen it drop from over $600 to $200. Now it's back at $240, but that is still an almost 2/3 drop in a week. And it's not looking like this is reversing anytime soon. And I'm unsure if Bitcoin Cash has a future. What do you guys think? Well, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. My videos are usually not this negative. I have a very positive outlook about the future potential of cryptocurrency. But honestly, Bitcoin Cash, I'm not sure if it has that. And yeah, links to the articles I looked at are in the description. I didn't really read any of them here, so if you want to read them yourself, links in the description. In the description, you'll also find my social media links and ways to support the channel if you feel so inclined. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another video very soon.